You're listening to the Keep Optimizing podcast to increase your traffic, improve your conversion rates, and grow your profits.
Hello and welcome. If you're looking to improve the performance and return on investment of your marketing, then you've come to the right place. I'm Chloe Thomas, the host of this Marketing Focus podcast, and it's very, very cool to have you tuning in to what is our first episode of 2021. So happy new year to all of you. Now, rather than talk about a specific marketing method this month, we're going to be taking a look at some key foundations that you need in place if you're going to do great marketing. 2020 was a tough year where many of us had to make quick changes in our businesses. And if you had the right foundations in place, it was so much easier to do. I lost count of the number of businesses who had great ideas but just couldn't implement them because it wouldn't integrate with the website, or their team weren't capable of doing it, or things were just not working the way they should. So if you had the right foundations in place, it was an awful lot easier. So this month, I thought we'd kick off the year by helping you work out what getting the right foundations in place means for your business and therefore for your marketing. We're going to kick off with the tech stack. Oh yes, we're starting with the big one. What sits at the heart of any e-commerce business? The tech stack, of course, being your website and all the stuff you integrate into it. So lots we're going to be getting into. And to do this, I'm joined in this episode by tech stack specialist Derric Haynie, who's going to be sharing a lot of great advice and tips and giving you an opportunity to get one-on-one help for free as well. You'll have to hold on till the end to find out about that, though. Now, we're just about to meet today's guest, but before we do, please do check out the sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Klavio, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform for brands of all kinds and sizes. Whether you're an entrepreneur just starting out or you're part of a marketing team at a multinational brand, Klavio will give you everything you need to create memorable marketing moments, building customer relationships that keep shoppers coming back time and time again. Get started with a free account today. Visit klavio.com/masterplan. That's KLAVIYO.com/masterplan. Today, I'm chatting with e-commerce expert Derric Haynie. Derric is the chief e-commerce technologist at eCommerce Tech, and since 2014, he's worked across the e-commerce world. He's been a marketing agency CEO and been in-house running the marketing for both a beauty box subscription box called BoxyCharm, which recently sold for $500 million to Ipsy, and at the helpdesk service Gorgias, which recently closed a Series A funding for $14 million. Derric is all about getting the right tech stack in place for your business. Hello, Derric.
Hello, thanks for having me. I love talking tech tools.
It's great to have you here and great to be talking tech as well. And given the number of successful businesses you've been involved with, where of course tech is essential, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what tips and advice you can give to our audience. But before we get into that, how did you get into e-commerce in the first place?
Certainly, so many different ways, I guess. Even starting when I was playing high stakes poker for a living, my wife was selling art and going to these small little art shows. So we said, let's build an online website for your art. This was Magento 1, and
Whoa.
It cost $10,000 to build the website. And we had this dream that we'd be able to put the art on the virtual wall and so we spent all this money building out this technology. And of course, like no idea how to drive traffic. Nobody ever purchased a single thing from the website. It was a total bust and a complete waste of money. So you mentioned a lot of successes, but there's a lot of failures that got me there. The failures moved me even faster, I would say, so that was the first dabble in it. Then a few years later, after launching a tech a simulator for a card game. So I played high stakes poker. There was this alternative card game called Open Face Chinese Poker, which is just what it's called in it. And we created a solver app just like you would create a solver for chess. And we sold that as a monthly subscription to people that played the game typically for money. And they were able to use this solver to calculate whether their play was the right play or not. Not in real time. So it wasn't like a cheating at the game app. It was like, okay, this is what happened. It was to improve your game. That was short-lived. It was tough to get moving. And from there, our marketing agency was born, which was called Splash Online Presence Management. We had no idea what we were doing. My wife and I started together. She was branding. I was like content and SEO. And from there, we started getting inquiries from e-commerce, and we pivoted a few times. It was very painful, but eventually we had a handful of really great e-commerce clients, including BoxyCharm. They were a client first. Another one called Clean and Green, and a few others that were a couple on Shopify, some on Magento, some on odd platforms. And we realized that like we never did it officially, but we're like, e-commerce is really, as a marketing agency, where we should focus our efforts on. We should stop trying to sell to SaaS and startups and stuff like that. And we kind of went after that category, and that's what got me started there. We even launched briefly a Shopify store, which I ended up selling for $500. Woo! Actually, and we launched another blog that was intended to be content first and then products off the back, and it got like a few thousand visitors, but it wasn't big enough, and it was with a partnership. So yeah, we did all these random things that really were just about learning and growing and failing at small expenses relative, and finding a way to make money in between. And then from there, BoxyCharm kind of pitched me to work in-house, and I certainly had the experience to run their team and stuff. And we were able to grow advertising from 0 to 300,000 a month in less than 6 months. And I told them where to put the money, and it worked like a charm. And we grew the influencer program. I was the person that taught them how to use metrics to track results of influencers. Prior to me, there was nothing going on there. And the story goes from there.
Nice. Well, clearly you know your stuff. So, and you've experienced plenty of different, I'm sure, plenty of tech stack challenges. But why is it so important that we get our tech stack so right?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, especially early marketers and early business owners, have a lot of limited resources. So you really want to make sure that you're using tools that are scaling your time, which means that if you're doing any kind of one-off activity in the e-commerce, this can often be on operations. You're taking things from a spreadsheet and putting them into a product listing or something like that, right? This happens all the time. Customer service is often very manual. And in marketing, there are a lot of things that end up becoming very manual. And if you can find the right tools that kind of scale that out for you, then you've scaled your time. And that's really important, because as a business grows, you need to change what you're working on. You can't be a static marketer. You can hire static marketers, right? So, or maybe if you're a consultant, you have a very static role, or consultant or agency has a very static role in marketing, doing the same thing over and over. But as an e-commerce in-house marketer, or in charge of marketing, head of marketing, you need to spin the plates. So you spin the email marketing plate, then you spin the SMS marketing plate, then maybe you're spinning the influencer plate, right? And the advertising plate. And you have to keep moving from place to place, because problems continue to emerge. And if the tools aren't talking to each other, so for instance, a really common one is if a pop-up tool is not talking properly to an email service provider, you might miss thousands of abandoned cart emails. And the way this works is the pop-up tool captures the email address, and then with a bad integration, it'll send it to your email service provider and just say, hey, there's a new email address in here. But with a good integration, it'll say, this cookied session ID is this email address. And that's important because you're using abandoned cart triggers to trigger the emails sequences that put the items that are in their cart into their email. And if those two platforms aren't talking to each other, you're missing that, like a percentage of revenue is just gone. And so that's just one example of why the tools need to talk well to each other. And it's not just about an integration, it's about a good integration. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference.
I don't know about you, Derric, but I found that in 2020, a lot of the businesses that I saw surviving well, despite all the chaos and the crazy that got thrown at them, were those who had a decent tech stack, because they were able to twist and pivot, because their team had more time, because they weren't downloading spreadsheets and uploading spreadsheets all day long, but also because they're able to quickly plug in the right things and leverage the right tech to enable them to adapt as consumers were adapting. Did you find a similar thing?
Yeah, I think what I found, I mean, aside from the general sense that, of course, some businesses are just totally out of luck, and some businesses like have hyper growth simply because of the nature of the company. I think that the companies that had the foundations in place were really the ones that were most successful, and those foundations of good conversion rate optimization, maybe even split testing if the site's doing enough traffic, strong analytics so that you can actually see what's going on, see the change in consumer behavior on your site in real time. At BoxyCharm, I made them buy me an 80-inch monitor. We put it up in the marketing department, and I designed the dashboard for real-time analytics so that we could see what products were selling well. And it's largely a subscription, but we also wanted to see conversion rate by minute, the conversion rate by hour. We wanted to see website traffic, which would spike up, and we would also see when 404 pages were getting hit, which meant the website was going down, and we had to talk to a DevOps person. So the foundations of between being able to see what's going on and communicating with your customers in an automated way. So like sending an email campaign or a monthly newsletter, that's great. And that's a manual process that you could certainly do to drive sales. But like I said, abandoned cart emails, post-purchase sequences, things that mitigate customer service tickets that are happening in an automated fashion, such as like onboarding and activation emails, getting people into your loyalty and rewards program, getting them to accrue loyalty points, and getting them to spend loyalty points, and doing that at triggered moments when you see that they did X, Y, or Z, whether it's on your site, on social media, whether they're taking an action by referring somebody that clicks their link, et cetera. You really want those are foundational components and there's, usually 3 to 7 tools that are talking to each other to make all that happen at the same time.
So it's all getting our tech foundation right is all about freeing up our time to take things to the next level. Now, I'm going to take us back to the bottom level. Yeah. Take us back a step, which is at the center of all of that. However many things you're integrating, you've got to have the right website platform. What are the key things if someone's thinking of re-platforming this year, or they're not sure if they should or shouldn't re-platform? What are the key things a good web platform needs to do? What have they got to consider and have on that must-have list?
Yeah. The number one thing is, how is this platform going to integrate with the tools that I want to use to get the goals that I want? Because all platforms are, there's a couple of them, but they're actually, honestly, I've never seen a good one. All platforms are the center point of an existing tool network. Right. And so you need to be, you might be more familiar with HubSpot over Klavio, for example. And so you're thinking, okay, then what platforms might cater towards HubSpot? Well, HubSpot has their own CMS, but that's probably impractical for e-commerce. Should I go with WooCommerce or Magento 2 because I want to go with HubSpot? Or if I want to go with Klavio, which platform has the best Klavio integration? And so it is a lot about integrations. It's about what else is the rest of the stack going to look like. But of course, I'm extremely biased in this one because I believe that Shopify has the best app partner ecosystem out there, not just from the strength of the tools and how they integrate into the platform, but also honestly, it's a really supportive community of developers and agency owners too that make the tools better by collaborating between each other. And in other platforms, such as the Magento 2 module, an extension, it's really fragmented and people don't talk to each other as much. It's a little bit tougher to break into. And it's also a lot more developer centric, which means that people are thinking about, the cliche thing is that building a solution, but not thinking about okay, how do we solve the marketer's problem or the end consumer's problem or something like that? They just build finite, here's a problem, here's a solution kind of thing. That's my bias on it. Now, from value out of the platform, aside from its integrations, you are going to be thinking about what is it that you want the platform to do versus other tools. Some platforms might be doing their own email marketing. Some platforms might be doing their own inventory management. Some platforms might help you manage retail better. retail with e-commerce jointly. Maybe they have their own ERP. I think that's NetSuite is like kind of doing a lot of this higher level stuff, and sometimes you don't need all that clunky stuff. So like I consider Magento 2 extremely powerful and extremely clunky. And what I really mean by that is like Magento 2, you can, for a small business, it'll cost you $200,000 to do the same thing that Shopify will do for $2,000. Right. And it's because you have to have a web developer, a DevOps person, you have to manage your own server space, you have to have your own uptime, but you own your instance of Magento 2, whereas Shopify is in a way a little bit more of rented land. They own the server, and if you stop paying them, the website will shut down. But I think that's kind of similar with Magento 2 instances. But yeah, so I'm kind of rambling on a few things, hinting around the answer to your question.
It's good rambling. It's good rambling. I like it. That's the thing, isn't it? It's integrations. Does it do the integrations? And most e-commerce businesses don't do anything that weird these days that they need to be on a specific platform that's the only one that can cover it. I mean, the only one I can think of is if you're selling bras, as in ladies' underwear, it becomes a complicated, you're restricted in your platforms because you need so many drop downs on the product page because you need color and back and front. But it's hard to think of an e-commerce product that requires a specific platform because all of them pretty much do it all now. So hence integrations becomes first and foremost.
Yeah, and of course, the goal of integrations is really to reduce them. We don't want to add tools. Every tool adds a layer of complexity. It has management time cost as well as, of course, the actual cost of the tool. And there's a process that goes along with every tool. And oftentimes when there's changes in management, changes in employees, so those processes get lost and the tool starts becoming ineffective. In my opinion, of course, there's no such thing as a bad tool, just a misused tool. Yeah. There are tools that go out of business and didn't provide a lot of value. Sure, they're there, but really anybody with customers that pay them and are very sticky in an ongoing way, I believe that there's a reason for the value behind the tool. But it's really complicated to choose a platform because you really have to get deep in the weeds with each of them to figure out exactly which one's going to be the best for you. And not just deep in the weeds with the platform, but deep in the weeds with the surrounding tools that you would use with that platform, which basically means you have to run your business for 3 years on a platform to decide if it's right for you. and then you'll be like, yeah, it just doesn't do this one thing that I really need it to do. For instance, Shopify, when you go with Shopify, you're forced into Shop Pay. You need to use their payment processor. Maybe you're a payment processing expert, or you really want to check out with Bitcoin or something like that. And you just need your own your own checkout process, right? And so immediately that'd be a red flag. Like, don't go with Shopify. Go with somebody where you have a control. Magento 2 would probably be the alternative. I don't actually know what WooCommerce does there, but yeah. And so that's one of the limiting factors. So I guess as opposed to running a platform for 3 years to figure out if it's right or wrong, you would need to look for red flag moments and must-haves that you're going to have to do for your business, and then see if there'll be multiple platforms that probably fit all your must-haves. So and then you got to choose.
If we're a startup or we're an existing business with an idea for a spin-off and we want that minimum viable product platform, that we've got an idea, we need to see if it actually works. Would you go with a Shopify or would you go with a WooCommerce type things? Because those to me are kind of like the two lowest level ones.
Yeah, and even I've seen people. You could even do just a GoDaddy landing page that captures email, if you don't need to actually sell physical product through the site, and you're using it for like a Kickstarter or something like that, which I've seen people do. So that those are the true minimum viable products. It's called a false door test, right? You say, buy the product, it's $59.99. Step 1, enter your email. And then step 2 is, okay, we'll email you when we're ready to take your payment information. Or some people even go all the way, take the payment information, and then we'll refund them afterwards or something along those lines. But those are real like MVP tests. Now, when we're talking about an early stage site where maybe you're a little past the MVP or you're ready to really launch, WooCommerce and Shopify both are really easy to get up and going. So either one is good. I'm already telling you, I'm very biased towards Shopify. I prefer it. The nice thing about WordPress is that the CMS is a little bit easier to handle. If you know basic HTML and CSS, whereas Shopify, you have Shopify Liquid, which is a different language and you have to learn it. Now, the developers that you would pay can be really cheap, and there are platforms like FreeUp or StoreTasker that you can just pay somebody like $65 to solve like you need your navigation bar to look different or something along those lines. So you can get away with very minimal dev costs on both sides. And then both of them have plug and play WYSIWYGs, which is just like if you want to design your homepage yourself, you can do that with a tool like Shogun. And then there's I forget the one for WooCommerce. It's like Magic Page Builder or something. I don't remember, but like both of them allow a layperson to kind of like decide on like, how the homepage is going to look, how the blog is going to look, and all those things. You can design them yourself. That's very affordable. If you're not a designer, it's probably basically going to get you to the MVP status. And then you'll be like, okay, my site looks pretty crappy and people are buying from me. Let's invest in, strengthening up the brand or even thinking about how to optimize for conversion rate or things like that. But I'd say either platform is very doable. You could even go down market to Squarespace or Wix, which I think are now offering e-commerce options. I hate both of those tools. Like I would highly not recommend it, especially from the integration standpoint. But if you were really on a budget like that, you would go all the way down to those solutions. If you're really on a budget, I usually tell people not to launch anything at all, invest in themselves and learn. Or even get a client who has a little bit more of a budget so that you can learn while growing their business, and then use the money that you're earning from that to save until you hit a critical threshold where you can actually launch a successful store, as opposed to dabbling and failing in stores like I told you I've already done in the past.
Clever. I like that slightly sideways angle. Get the learning in first. Well, look, we've talked platforms. We've talked general kind of theory. What are the next key things we want to have in place? So someone who's weathered 2020, they've made it through, and they're going, right, what should I be investing in to make a difference for my business in 2021? For someone who's growing, what are the next things, the next pieces of tech they should have on their investment radar?
Everyone has to have an email service provider. And I personally believe everyone needs an SMS provider today. And you want to set up those abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, post-purchase flows in both email and SMS as best as you can. And that's 30, 40, 80 hours of work right there just to get those sequences, welcome sequences. And then, of course, you need to be collecting the email and the phone number. Some brands could go phone number only, by the way, but you will want email for certain other types of automation. So your SMS and email platform need to be very closely linked. There are a few that do both. Klavio has launched SMS. OmniSend was built with SMS and email intertwined, which is great. Klavio's SMS isn't so good, but it integrates really well with another tool called SMS Bump, which is great for any stage of a store. And they just got acquired by Yotpo. And so you've got the email and the SMS with the pop-ups. You obviously need to know that your product detail pages are operating properly. Like there's good product images and descriptions, and you're solving problems, sizing issues, and stuff like that. And then, of course, you want that social proof on those product detail pages, which is going to be a review tool. I think you should have a review tool from the beginning because you need to get as many reviews as fast as possible. Early on, you can even incentivize reviews. You should never fake reviews. And a lot of these platforms are now verifying reviews. Your review platform should always be image or video enabled because at least for any brand that's slightly visual, because you want people to be taking shots on social media, and then you want to capture those and put them on the site. The written explanation of wow, this blouse fit really great, looks great on me, I love the fabric. Nothing compared to the image. The picture is worth way more weight in gold, and it converts really well. So setting up those review tools. Then, of course, once your people are reviewing you, kind of naturally leads to loyalty, because reviewing is the first step towards coming back and buying from you again. So a loyalty tool. There are some tools that do both loyalty and rewards. So Stamp.io comes to mind. That they actually have two separate tools, but they're highly integrated with each other, of course, same company. And then Yotpo has a review tool and a loyalty tool, but they're a bit more high end. I wouldn't recommend them for a starting store. So we've got loyalty. Some brands will need a subscription tool like Recharge or Bold subscriptions if you're a subscription box or you want to add subscription as a product option. And then finally, there's more, but an upsell tool I think is really important to upsell and cross-sell from day one. And you can incorporate all sorts of cool things into these, just making bundles. You can also capture information and use that to determine what you're gonna upsell them with. And then you want to upsell typically on a product detail page and on the cart page. And then you have to be, if you're on Shopify, you have to be Shopify Plus to do it through the checkout process, but it's really valuable there as well.
Nice. I like that. Everyone, we will put the full list of recommendations that Derric gave there because that was pretty awesome. We'll make sure those are all in the show notes for you. All right, Derric, we are going to pause now for a reminder of our sponsors, and then we're going to talk about the wider world of e-commerce marketing foundations. Success in 2021 means building stronger relationships with your customers. Last year saw a lot of consumers switching to buy online, leading to surges in new customer acquisition. So how are you planning on turning your new first-time buyers into profitable repeat customers? Well, that's what Klavio is for. Klavio helps businesses create memorable marketing moments through email, SMS, and personalized website experiences. And that is what creates repeat purchases. That's why Klavio, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform, is used by over 50,000 e-commerce brands around the world. Get started with your free account today. Visit klavio.com/masterplan. That's KLAVIYO.com/masterplan. Okay, Eric, so far we've gone deep into that e-commerce tech stack. I think I'm certainly boggling at the number of recommendations you gave us, but also the clarity. Great clarity there, everyone. Those are the tools you need. Okay, you now get to wow us, Derric, with your insider knowledge about the whole of kind of e-commerce marketing foundations. So for the following questions, your answer can be anything to do with e-commerce, which of course does include the e-commerce tech stack. So Derric, you ready for these?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's start with e-commerce kind of foundations newbie advice. If we've inspired someone to take their first step in improving their e-commerce foundations today, what do they need to know to give themselves the best chance of success?
Almost everything we talked about is directly related to the relationship you have with your customers. So you know, sending an email doesn't mean anything if the person doesn't want it, or if your product isn't eliciting some sort of emotional response from them. People are buying things for online because they're getting endorphin rushes, and when they buy online, which is tied to emotions, and they're buying to solve a problem or some form of utility, and joy, and something like that. So make sure you understand the emotional triggers and responses that people are buying from you for. Like literally in your customer service emails and on social media, they'll start to say things like, "This changed my life," or maybe they'll say, "You just saved me hours of time." Right? You'll catch these phrases that come from your customers over and over again. That's how you find your best copywriting, right? You don't need to hire me or Chloe to give you great copywriting advice. You can hire us to help, but you'll be able to listen to your customers and figure out what it is that they're connecting with. You think you sell what do I have over here, though? The world's first portable blender. You think you're selling a blender? No, you're selling the ability to make smoothies for my kids while I'm at the park or on the go or at yoga class, right? Like, you're selling an experience, right? So the product is their touch point to an experience. Connect with them through the experience and try to avoid being like a feature-driven product kind of business. You really have to figure that part out, because all of the emails, all the SMSs, all of the reviews you request, all of the loyalty points that you're trying to get people to accrue, they mean nothing if the connection is surface level.
Cool. Okay. Now, once you've started, of course, you've got to keep optimizing. So what's your favorite way to improve e-commerce performance?
The only way to properly improve performance is in split testing, A/B, or multivariate testing. It's very basic. It means 50% of your traffic go towards this landing page or product detail page, or get this email or this text. 50% get this text. After a period of time that needs to be more than 1 week, could be a month, could be a year, depending on your traffic, you will have a statistically significant result that proves that one outperforms the other in mass. Once you have that proof, you can take it to your marketing colleagues and say, this one works better. Let's stop doing that one and find a new challenger to see if we can beat this one. And that's the only way you're allowed to improve. Here's how people improve today. It's typically called the Hippo improvement plan, which is the CEO walks into a room and says, I don't like that button, change it. And then all of a sudden the button changes and you don't know if it was good or bad for your conversion rate, right? So, or maybe you want to improve your product images. I think the first shot should be this beautiful white background shot of the product. And somebody's like, well, I think it should be this influencer holding the product. And then the highest paid person's opinion wins and nobody knows if it actually improves conversion rate, right? Even the upsells and cross sells that I talked about. And here's where it gets funny from a tool standpoint. Every tool will take credit for as many sales as they can. So if you look at the revenue that the tools say they generate, it'll typically be something like 300% of your actual revenue. That's because they're all taking credit for the same thing because we have an omni-channel experience. So we need to understand holistically, does SMS improve my overall revenue for the store? Which would technically mean that 50% of the people that opt in through SMS would get texts and 50% would not. And you would look at your overall conversion rate from that to prove the overall lift of SMS on the business. And you can do the same about email and abandoned cart reminders, proving the value of those things and proving the value of even one platform versus another. If you want to transfer platforms because you think it's got a good bell or whistle, it has to be done in a real-time split test. The other one is called it might be called a before-after. There's a few other words for it. A longitudinal test is the other technical term for it, where we're on platform A or we're using tool A, and then we stop and use tool B. And the problem is that your whole business changed from January to February. And from February to March this year, everybody's business changed. So if you were doing a longitudinal test and sales plummeted in March, your test is obviously debunked. That's why it has to be split traffic. You have to split test. Split testing is really important once you hit about 10,000 monthly visitors. And you want to split test really big things, not like changing one word in your headline. That's a total waste of time. It needs to be big tests first. And then as you get more and more traffic, you can test the small things.
Everyone listening, I think we hit a nerve there.
Because look, everyone's been the Hippo and everyone's been, taken down by the Hippo. And the one thing I make sure and do when I'm in my team meetings with my team in my company is I say, these are my opinions. Please present other opinions. We try and make it a meritocracy as best as possible. And I say, what do you think of these opinions? And as often as I think is right, because I'm still the highest paid person's opinion, we try and go with, the consensus opinion on a subject. And I also always point out when I'm like, I like the button this color. That's my preference, and it really doesn't matter, I'm sure, right? So I point out the value of my input, even though we're probably going to go with what I'm suggesting.
The joy and the danger of being the Hippo.
Yeah.
Okay, Derric, next question then. If someone listening wants to learn more about what we've been talking about, is there a single cheap or free resource you'd recommend?
I have a YouTube video that we'll link in the show notes about starting stacks and kind of growth stage. And then, of course, for researching tools, we've got ecommercetech.io. Go over there. Right now, we have 70 products reviewed. Maybe it'll be about 200 by the time this airs, we're hoping. And we're really trying to dissect different markets and sub-markets within e-commerce technology to help people make the right decision for them. Other than that, when you're vetting the tools themselves, look at the resources that they have on for ebooks and downloads and courses you can take, because a lot of these tools are actually so robust that you need a firm training in it. And a lot of the tools will not give you a hand-holding customer success experience, especially as a starting store. You have to do all the work yourself. So buying a review tool isn't very helpful if you don't know how to implement a review strategy behind it. So you need the class. And there's free things online, but if you're going to use a tool like Stamped, then you should take Stamped's course. I think they have a 5 video course on how to get reviews set up properly for you. And you have to do that with every tool that you execute, is make sure you know how it works and the strategy behind it. The tool is the hammer. It doesn't build the house.
Oh, so true. Well, look, finally, Derric, it's crystal ball time. What's coming up in the next 6 to 12 months that we should be getting ready for?
There's so many different things. And, related to starting stores, it's a little bit different. Honestly, the first major thing is the move into SMS, where you can go SMS first, text first, only collect phone numbers, and think about how you can strengthen the relationship with your customers via text. There are also now solutions that help reorder through text. There's one called TextFi, TXTFI. That's like an automated bot for texting with customers and getting them to repurchase based on like when a product might run out in their home or something along those lines. So, and then between the text conversation, you also have the chat conversation, which is live chat on the site, even community forums and staying closer in touch. And then that brings me to this other really new emerging tool that I think is great for starting stores that are building strong brands and are maybe highly social. It's called visual storytelling. Visual storytelling is if you're doing a lot of Instagram stories, you can actually drag that Instagram story onto your own site. There's a little bar at the top that have those circles that kind of look exactly like Instagram stories. And then you can click on a circle and then it pops up a story. And in that story is now a product. And if you click on the product, you go to the product detail page because you're on the site, not on Instagram. So it's a little bit more of a that's why it's called visual storytelling. It's a way to engage customers on the site that's new and it's cheap to get started. So it's not like a higher price tool. Because the two higher priced ones I'll let you know now, but if you're starting store, don't do them. AI is obviously going to be there. You're going to be looking for tools that automatically segment and predict behavior and then create, unique sequences, whether it's email or on-site experiences because of it. And then the other one is pricing and price testing tools. In the future, in the next 6 months, you're going to see this slightly, but not quite there. You're going to see people changing and testing their prices more because we're leaving a lot of money on the table as businesses. For instance, like $34.99 versus $39.99. Which one is right, and how do I know? And you know how I would tell you to test it, but you can't test prices with a true split because it's unfair to give the person on the left 34 and the person on the right 39. They both have to have the same price. So you have to do longitudinal studies, which means you really need smart computers to figure out which one is best because you have to understand the difference in overall conversion rate and your sample size needs to be larger and all sorts of things.
Nice. Another great answer, Derric. It's been awesome. You've given us so much today. Look, we're now at the end of the show. So could you let the listeners know where they can find you and your business on the web and social media, please?
Yeah, for sure. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Derric Haynie. You'll find me around. I love to connect there. I meet merchants there. I meet a lot of tech providers there. And then through that or through our website, ecommercetech.io, you can book a consultation with me. They're completely free. We just do free quarterly or biannually tech consults to understand the tools you're using today. Typically, they're for Shopify and Shopify Plus customers because I'm weaker on the WooCommerce Magento side. But we look at the tools. We look at what ones you might be underutilizing, tell you to go to work on those. We look at which ones are missing and tell you, okay, these are the tools you want to install. And this is the roadmap for success that you're going to want to put in place. And as you hit this revenue milestone or this website visitor milestone, start thinking about these tools. And that's, like I said, the plate spinning just gets more and more plates. And then you hire people and then some of them are spinning plates and you're spinning them, like that's how I think about e-commerce. Between spinning plates and putting out fires, it's a very dangerous place. But and so I'm happy to we give free consultations. There's no catch. We don't try and sell you anything. We're able to make our money off of our partner network on the back. So it's at no cost to the merchants. And we always try and represent the landscape agnostically because it is important that you're getting the right solution. We honestly, we have no favorites. We just tell you, we think this will work better because of X, Y, Z. We try and prove it in the actual functionality of tools.
Brilliant. Thank you, Derric. And thanks so much for being on the podcast today. It's always great to catch up with you. And you've given the audience an awful lot to think about. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Derric certainly does know his stuff when it comes to the e-commerce tech stack. And you can get the links to everything we discussed, the full transcript of this episode, important notes, and much more at keepoptimizing.com with an S, not a Z. And that, of course, also includes how to get your hands on one of those free audits that Derric mentioned there. I, for one, would certainly be grabbing one of those if I was currently running my own e-commerce business. Now, this month, we are going to be adding a lot to your to-do list. There's probably quite a lot from just this episode. And of course, the strength of any to-do list is working out what you actually should be doing, not just what you could be doing. So in the first week of February, we are going to be hosting a very special 2021 planning webinar. Once we've got those January sales out of the way and you've had a chance to listen to all of our Marketing Foundations episodes, the ones we're putting live this month, I'm going to be helping you work out the plan that's going to enable you to hit your goals in 2021, whatever they may be. And it's not just going to be me. I'm going to be joined by some very special guests sharing their tips and advice too. We're going to reveal more about this as the month progresses, but right now you can go and save your space for free at keepoptimizing.com/webinar. Now, whilst this month we are all about getting your marketing foundations right, over on our sister podcast, eCommerce Master Plan, we're filling January up with our e-commerce growth series sponsored by Klavio, where we're talking to e-commerce retailers who've grown their business in very different ways and exploring further growth methods with a selection of hand-picked experts. There's 8 episodes in all, so we're putting those live on Mondays and Thursdays, and they are well worth a listen if you are planning great things for 2021. You can hear all of that on your podcast app of choice. Just search for eCommerce Master Plan. Or, of course, you can head to ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast to find out more about what we're up to over there. So lots of things we're putting out there over the next few weeks to help you make 2021 a really successful year for you. Well, look, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Keep Optimizing podcast. I'm looking forward to helping you up your game in 2021. And if you know someone who's looking to do the same, please do let them know about the show, because we create it to help people like them and like you. Now, have a great week and make sure you listen to the next episode so I can help you to keep optimizing your marketing.
Access everything Keep Optimizing at keepoptimizing.com. That's with an S, not a Z.